Hello, hi guys.
Hello.
Welcome to another delicious, amazing week of our ReRoll podcast. We do these every other Monday, and I love them. I love talking to my friends. So tonight's conversation is. What did you just say to me?
I said, yay.
Oh, okay, I thought you said something else. I really thought he said something. I was like, all right, that's fair, I guess.
Forgive me. It's the aggressive voice change.
Oh, it's Mr. Voice Changer. But yeah, we're going to be discussing diversity in role-playing games. What does that mean to us, and etc. What are our thoughts on it? But before we jump on this hot conversation, this fiery conversation, like the image on our background right now, which I think all of us would be just shouldn't be, but it is, because apparently representation and saying that people are okay to be who they are is controversial.
I need you to not hit me with that hot button issue, man.
I literally pressed my my sticky notes like it was a button. You can't see it, but I need you to understand that's what I just did.
I felt it. I felt it in my spirit.
I felt it in this. So before we, as per usual, before we jump into our hot takes for today, does anybody have any points of conversation or discussions that we want to talk about in the last couple of weeks of playing D&D in our either Sacred World, Hogwarts Prep, or the Hoard of the Dragon Queen game? Pause a minute for everybody to think.
I'm sorry. I was shoving a chicken nugget in my mouth.
I was about to say, is it chicken nuggies?
I'm eating nuggies right now.
Yeah.
Which is West's favorite food.
Is it canon? West's favorite food is chicken nuggies?
It is actually canon.
It's not chicken nuggies. It's nuggets of chicken.
Nuggets of fried chicken. That is the canon definition of what West's favorite food is in a specific webcomic that's happening.
Oh, wow.
We have the documentation.
Which, speaking of said webcomic, that's in 2 weeks we're gonna do that. We're actually not gonna have a ReRoll podcast on the 3rd of next month. We're gonna have a special one shot for the Alistair comic, which is amazing. Both the artist and writer of that comic are here, which is cool.
Yes.
Woo! Oh, we're also having something special on the 1st, which is the Saturday.
We finally confirmed it. So the 1st is going to be a special Demiplanes and Doodles episode where we're going to have the bros draw with us.
That's the coolest.
West and Alistair are going to physically manifest into this world, and they're going to draw with us.
I hear there's other maybe potential cool thing that might happen. Hopefully it does.
Yeah.
Cool. Pardon my rudeness, I forgot to mention everybody that's here. We have a going from the bottoms of the pit to
where the ankle biters are.
I guess. We have a Dickie, Vic, Lynn is somewhere on the ceiling. Tabitha, I assume, is also somewhere around the pocket dimension there.
She's in the pocket dimension towards the back, chilling and vibing.
Yeah. Whenever we say something she doesn't like, she'll just yell at the microphone.
She'll just yell from the void, and I'll repeat what she says.
Or throw something at you.
Always.
Yeah, but how did you for Hoard of the Dragon Queen? How did you guys feel about that transition?
Yeah, man, what's up? Tell me all your feelings about that very ballsy move I did.
I was very emotional. How dare you tap into my feelings? I thought I was gonna die, and then blackness.
Here's full disclosure about me when I DM a game. Your feelings aren't safe.
I honestly felt that we were doing really good in the fight, and then when that happened, I was like, what?
Yeah.
The first thought when you left, because you need to take Champ out during our break. Usually we take our dogs out because they also use the restroom. My first thought was like, oh man, that was like an orb of darkness. But wait, they can't see in the dark. Oh no, they're infernal creatures. They have devil sight. We're screwed. And then it was a dream sequence. I'm like, but I thought, and then like in the back of my head, I was like, pointing my fingers together, like, but I thought we were doing good. I thought we were like winning the fight. I wanted to kill the demon dragons.
Look,
I had contingency plans.
I killed one of the Black Abishai.
Yeah,
I critted on the Black Abishai, even though I hurt myself doing so. And then I went to the Red Abishai, and I was like, you're next, buddy. And then he attacked me 3 times and got me to death saves.
You were down to one death save.
I was down to one death save.
You were on the line.
Yes, but Fifi was right there.
That Burbo head was on the block.
Look, we have a druid and 2 clerics. We should have won that fight.
We have a druid, 8 panthers, a polar bear, and some dinosaurs, and a spud.
Hey, I thought Murder Eye was gonna be chicken nuggets next, man. So maybe that's why Vic was like, "Hey, I want some chicken nuggets."
Well, here's a DM speaking. What you did certainly mattered.
Yeah. We pissed off people.
Even though it was a dream. Even though it was a dream, it meant something.
Dun dun dun.
Tiamat testing us to see our strengths.
I mean, I'd say take a good look at who she has in her in her forces, who's on her side, and that might answer some questions to why specific events are happening.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna ask Lynn for notes now.
Yeah.
Photocopy all your notes.
Read to me. Notes.
Is it just pictures of Grayson's leg and then someone hovering above it?
It's literally just doodles.
It's like doodles and like 3 words together that don't make sense. I've seen the notes.
It's funny though. I think the last couple notes I took, I looked at. I'm like, what the hell does this mean?
Damn it, Lynn! You're the wizard.
It's not as bad as like Laura Bailey, where like her notes are literally just dicks on her notebook.
I'm not
Lynn
that
is quiet. Is like I cannot confirm nor deny that statement.
I think Wes takes the best notes. To be real with you.
That's probably true.
Where is
he
my
draws the best notes ever.
He draws the best notes. That was probably the most fun I've had note taking.
Yeah, I do like it when you get into character and start drawing your notes. Draw Ariel picking up a dwarf and then fire with this like an angry face behind him.
Yeah.
I have a note that just says cryptic shit.
There you go, cryptic shit.
I'm not wrong.
I was taking a lot of notes, and then I think halfway through the sessions I was like, I think I'm more in character with Fox when I'm reactionary. So I stopped taking notes and just started writing down like just names or like important things that he would obviously remember, but I would have a hard time remembering just because names are difficult in my head.
I think your best Fox moments are definitely when you're reactionary. Like I'll have a villain say something like, "You're going to give us the boy or everyone's going to die," and you immediately respond in a Fox voice, "I'm going to slap your gonads."
Yeah. That's Fox for you. I can just picture him just walking into Tiamat with like a grandpa cane. Just hitting her.
Smacks her
off my lawn.
Get off my lawn. He would complain about how old he is, even though she's an ancient being.
Yeah, but Fox is older, obviously.
Obviously, Fox is older. Him and his 42 years of living, he's the oldest in the group.
Grayson is like older than Fox, but Fox insists that he is older.
I think everybody's older than Fox except for Birderai, because his race is like what? How old do 20s or something?
That's like 30s.
We die at 30.
Okay. We die at 30.
As soon as you hit 30, doesn't matter what level you are, that's it. You hit.
Oh,
Feely and Yuli are fairly young.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Yeah,
I think I forget how what the Trident life expectancy is.
Trident life expectancy is about the same as an elf, I believe.
Yeah, they're older than me by far.
I don't know. Steph will have to confirm that for me, but I think they're on the younger end of like the actual like human lifespan spectrum.
Okay. All right. Well, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, like
In
40,
human years.
42 is not old by any means. So, but turtles, their life expectancy is 50. So,
Yep.
yeah.
So you have 1 foot in the hole.
Yep. He's 1 foot in the hole he dug.
One knee.
One knee in that
I got
hole.
one knee
Yeah,
already.
you got the knee there. But speaking of carrying Durgar in fire, what were your thoughts on Friday's game? I did what Tabitha said, and I took a whole bunch of screenshots of y'all's expressions, and there usually are just like, oh my god, happy, or like, what the fuck did you just say to me?
I feel like as West, I go through a spectrum of emotion.
There is one that's the one that I use for the thumbnail that I absolutely love, where Jeremiah looks like he's having a mental breakdown. Colton looks like he's mad, has his arms crossed. Vic is looking at Tabitha with like your jaw dropped and like a happy, giddy expression, and Tabitha, you just have your hands covering your face.
Yes.
And I was like, that is the entire range of emotions this game.
That perfectly sums up the game. Speaking of ranges of emotions, I know exactly what Orc Deaths was in that moment.
It was his caricature right there.
I've been saving this. I've been saving this sight gag for a minute, but this is exactly what Orc Death's range of emotions were on the episode.
Okay.
That's fair. That's extremely fair. It always astonishes me, and it's like every single time, like you said, when there's fire involved, Orc just gets incredibly acrobatic. Because he's not a dex-based guy. He's pure strength and constitution. But as soon as there's fire, he's like, alright, rogues, elves, step aside. It's my turn to shine.
He's Hussein Bolt Death.
Oh my god.
I'm sure Orc was a cross-country runner when he was in high school.
Orc Death was the fastest runner in his clan.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
Yep. That was fun.
Even sober.
Yeah, even sober.
So.
Oh man, Orc Death's the soberest in his party. Oh shit.
No, but Hastings West with a barbarian with 40 move speed. That was great.
West embraced the speed force.
Yeah,
just...
when you were moving that fast, I was like, oh my god, if you trip or anything bad happens, you will break some of Rifanos' bones. Like, that is incredibly fast.
West is a very heavy boy, so I agree. That would exactly happen.
Yeah, you're such a solid mass. It's scary, to be honest.
He is literally a brick house.
Yes, he is. But Zhao, I'm going over here looking at our notes for tonight. Yes.
But first, I'm the only one here in the Harry Potter group that's in the podcast.
What's up, Leon?
All I'm gonna say is the party is split 3 ways.
Yeah, you guys decided that. You guys decided to split 3 ways in the course of 2 days.
Yeah. One party, Neff and Griswold, are gonna be probably encountering some dire insects. They're insects, centipedes, just dire. Leon is by himself in his estate, but apparently there's some not really good horrors in there or something. That's what I'm kind of imagining anyway, because of how how it ended. Yeah, yes. And then on the third group of Sonia, Bones, and Jericho encounter the Banshee, and Bones is immediately incapacitated.
Yeah, can we talk about
not even the first round?
Yeah, not before combat started. She failed her Constitution saving throw from the Banshee's howl, and therefore she drops to 0 HP and it's unconscious.
Not even first round of combat. They were like, initiative hasn't rolled yet. There's already one incapacitated.
It's like I tell you guys, the world is always moving and is doing things. So you guys split, so there's encounters and experiences and either battle or roleplay or whatever, or both, wherever you go. So if you're like, this is exactly what I want to do, all right, I'll have something planned for that. And the Harry Potter group is, the Hogwarts prep group, sorry, they're really good at, okay guys, so, you know, the world is open, you are individuals who live in this world, what do you want to do? All 6 of us want to do completely different things all across England. Okay, yeah, sure, let's do it one at a time. Let's just go.
I love how I love their collective energy of just ending up in situations that are just absolutely terrible.
They're
and then it's that realization of, oh wait, that was our decision, our bad. Hold on.
Oh, you mean we?
But you know, you have to do that sometimes so people will learn. Like, you know what? Don't do this again.
Yeah,
time to fireball in the middle of a vampire's den.
Yeah, that's the classic story from their campaign. It's
God.
I don't think they're ever gonna live that down. It's just they're first time players. So
I certainly will not let Ryan live that one down.
And then that one time when a fireball was casted again, it was inside of a wooden house.
Oh my god!
Twin spilled a fireball, duplicating
that was
inside of a wooden structure. There's gonna be consequences. Oh wait, no, and then because for some reason, Bones, Lee's character, she has the since she's a wild sorceress, there's a 1 in 20 chance that wild magic might take effect, which is either a good thing or a bad thing. For some reason, because there is 100 different possibilities, she's only gotten the same result. Well, she's gotten a couple, but they're so insignificant that it doesn't really like change anything. The one that is truly like an effect on the combat is that she catches herself on fire.
Yep.
It does not damage her. She's immune to that fire specifically, but everything she touches is on fire. And I'm like, oh my god, you're on the 2nd floor of this home. Oh no, there's so many people living here. Oh my god.
Because she's the one who casted fireball and twinned it.
Caught herself on fire.
And then caught herself on fire. It was so perfect.
She was clever as like, oh, then my next round immediately I'm casting Dimension Door and going out into the stone. I'm like, okay, great. There's only a small bit of the house that's on fire, and then the other players use their turn to extinguish the fire, which is, you know, great. Good job, guys. Good planning. I also didn't expect you guys to kill Vulcan. I expected it to be one of those things where like, he gets away and the mystery continues, and you guys get to explore and research why they're hunting Jericho down, and like why the U.S. magical organizations and are like teaming up with the British ones that you guys are aligned with, but are like, why are they letting this happen? And then you're like, nope, hammer to the face, kill him. Like, all right.
You never expect the party to kill a significant NPC in your game. Never.
Yeah, no. They never.
Yeah, definitely.
Never.
They yeah, of course. Why would you let them talk? They're bad people. But the one
not like
time
one or two, you know.
You guys interrogated people before, so I'm like, okay, well, you'll interrogate this guy, and Neff's like, no, I'm not. He has like 3 HP. Obviously, I didn't say that, but like he has like 3 HP left. He's extremely bloody. He's about to pass out. Explaining all that. Yep, I'm gonna hit him twice with my maul. All right, how are you gonna do this? Because you went like 50 points beyond his HP. Like, I'm gonna smash his face in Gallagher style. All right, bro. That's what happens.
Respect.
Yeah, it was good. If they were like, I think one more level higher, they can just speak with Dead, and like that wouldn't be an issue. But well, it's fun. You guys
I
are.
just felt Wes nodding in the back of my head, like, respect.
Yeah. I never.
Always go for the Gallagher smash.
Always go for the Gallagher smash. It's kind of scary to me now that as Wes and Neff have been evolving as barbarians, that Neff is naturally stronger.
She's
has
physically
more
stronger.
HP. It is 2 levels below West.
Yep.
and it's like, oh my god, this 17-year-old girl is a tank.
She is absolutely frightening in every way, and I love her.
And she's like the most kind-hearted, gentle person amongst the. Yeah, she is a Hufflepuff. She's definitely a Hufflepuff. She's definition of Hufflepuff. She's.
Yep.
Excuse me. Apologize. She is definition of Hufflepuff.
Hufflepuff.
Yeah. But alrighty. Pause for a second. Make sure everybody has time to speak if they want to speak about anything for the games. Or brag about anything cool thing that they did. Pausing.
Goes to Shima. That's it.
It was a great stream. I caught the end of it. I caught the League of Legends.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The quadra kill. You caught that, right?
I caught the quadra kill, and I was like, I don't know what that means. I think he just killed 4 people. Okay, cool.
Out of
Good.
5.
I applauded you.
There's 5 people in the team, and I killed 4 of them in 5 seconds.
That's impressive, I assume.
And I ended the game with 21 kills and 7 deaths.
Good job. Kill more than you get killed. I think it's a good model.
And the chat on the League of Legends was saying, "Holy shit, bot lane difference. Look at that Jinx. What the hell happened?" Because I started the game 2 and 6.
Yeah.
2 kills and 6 deaths. That's how I started the game. And then the game progressed. And then 20, 21 and 7. So anyway,
Well,
on to the topic.
So yes, representation. I'm going to try to stay on task. I know when we were discussing before, I have a couple of notes. So if I start branching off into the conversations that aren't on our little sheet here, you know why. So, starting up right at the tip of the top. What does representation mean? We are all people from completely different walks of life. I don't think there's anyone here that's grew up similarly to anyone else like that. So, based on our individual things, what does that mean to you? What does representation mean to you in the world of role-playing games? Anyone want to take that challenge on? Completely define this controversial topic and sensitive discussion right now. Just define it. All right.
Well,
I'll take it. Yes.
Okay.
I think really it comes down to the people that are playing are the ones who are representing. I mean, you can make a character, and what I do in Gamma World, when people roll a character, I figure out how many different races there are on the planet, and then I kind of blend some of them together. Yeah. And that way, it kind of creates more representation in some that don't even exist, but something different, so their character could be a little different.
Yeah. I was watching this well-educated and well-spoken British man who was having this subject of like, what do you put in your world? Do you is every elf and every dwarf, every halfling, do they all act the same? There's a paragraph in the player's handbook, or a paragraph of what a Vulcan is going to be, or a paragraph of what this alien race or what they usually are. But if that itself is what defines them, then that's kind of bland. I understand for like new DMs or people that are getting into the game, it's easy to fall back on. Like for role playing, there's the Seven Dwarfs mentality, where it's like if you're coming up with something on the spot, you're not going to have this random shopkeeper's entire backstory just because someone wanted to buy some arrows. So there's this quick and interesting way to generate what the character would be, and then they'll naturally. So like sleepy or dopey or bashful, like one sentence thing. They like gold coins. They don't want to shop with silver or platinum or copper. They're into gold, and that one little thing, as the characters and the players start interacting with your NPC, you get more things. Oh, why does he only like gold coins? Oh, maybe he was robbed one time. So that develops, and when you just have, since we're on this topic, I'll just jump to the orcs specifics. If you just have that orcs are specifically evil murderers, that is their backstory. Like, are all orcs that way? Because if that's how you think, then we jump into the subject of racism. So, like, no orc is ever good. Orcs only have one frame of mind.
Orcs can't reason.
Yeah, exactly. Like, of course, it can.
Like orcs only being one specific one specific like personality trait or one specific archetype. They're always going to be the rough, violent ones, and like that kind of mentality. Like, I was just recently watching an isekai anime with Tabitha, and it was a dub. Shoot me later, but
I will.
The great thing about it though was because like it brought a frame of thinking to me when I was watching it. It was it's the one about the wrestler that gets transported into a fantasy world, and it's fantastic. And he comes across an orc camp, and his job is to basically disperse the orcs so that they can stop attacking people on the roads and they can like continue doing their jobs. And he comes in and he's like, "Hey, who's the toughest motherfucker in this joint? I'm gonna beat you in a wrestling match." And like the biggest orc shows up, and he has the most eloquent speaking voice.
I love that.
And we're like, he doesn't sound anything like an orc, and I'm like, I know this is probably just bad voice acting, but I really like that. Like, he's like the biggest looking dude, but he has like the softest, most eloquent voice. He's like, yeah, that's me. What do you want, man?" And it's like, holy shit,
that's good.
I love this.
It's a subjective expectation because it's a stereotype, right? A big person is going to be stronger, slightly dumber. A lengthier individual is going to be more acrobatic and maybe more intelligent. A kind of scouty looking guy is going to be the sneakiest and like the conniving and it's like we have those things in mind, and it's okay to start there. It's, I think, bad to say that is it, exactly. because we have representation of everything, staying again with the orc subject here. It's how I was introduced to orcs back in 3.0 was that they are three things: a full-blooded orc. That's why half orcs exist. You're taming that ferocity. Orcs are evil, orcs are murderers, and orcs are rapists. That is the only three things that they are. That's exactly how I was introduced to them. And
go ahead. I mean, I think one word comes out the way you were explaining everything. And like some people, when they use orcs in their adventure, they're already going to be evil. They're always going to be bloodthirsty. They're always going to be, barbaric, whatever. Stereotyping, which is one word that really, really stands out now in society, is that people are basically lazy. They will see someone and then they stop. They stop what they see. They stop at the skin color. They stop at the cultural clothing. They stop at, the different race that they are, and then start assuming other than figure out what's inside that you never judge your book by its cover. You judge it by its content, and people are lazy to where they don't want to find content in other people. And it's the same thing like orcs. I mean, I think it'd be cool if somebody made a story about orcs that kind of give the orc side of the story. They might have a little bit rougher time and do things a little differently, but it can be explained, and then it can be adapted into a story.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think you hit a lot of markers. It's what's in the book, and I don't want to take time to try to do anything more creative. Orcs are always the evil race. Orcs are always going to hate elves, and that goes back to their backstory. I think it's a cool idea. The orc god and the elven god had a conflict. They fought each other. Therefore, that grudge has been bred into the orc world. It's like, but there could be a clan that worships Orcus, and their whole thing is we hate everybody else. Cool, they're bad guys. You would label them as bad guys. But what about that clan over there, all the way in the frozen Arctic, completely away from elven kind? Do they hate? They also have that same grudge, like generations of them being born, having to fight off wolves and like survive and maybe become like, I don't know, good fishermen or something like that. That's their entire world. Why do they care about what an elf does, or a grudge happen with things beyond their real comprehension? Because what is really a god? And like I have a very specific thing for that, and like in the homebrew game that I'm writing at the moment, where it's the orc god is not chaotic evil; it's neutral good. Every single god, except for one, is good. The only evil god is a god of the undead, who all the other gods do not like. Every arc fiend, every arc demon, every arc devil, they're evil. And I think there's a harsh difference between like stereotyping an entire race of individuals based on like an alignment chart, because we're all diverse. Something like a angel or a devil, they're very, I don't know if elemental might be the correct word, but they're very driven by those laws of what is truly good. That element of radiant goodness, and then that radiant of evil. So like these things, they're not born. They're created by the archdevils in an odd system of evolution, or they're created at the beginning of time, or beginning of existence, by the deities that created them. And when a soul passes, they go either up or down. So like, which is really interesting for REL, because, and I think the topic of like, does an angel have free choice? Like that whole mentality, which is getting away from the conversation. But
I'm really enjoying the polarity between REL and Cole at the moment in the Sacred World campaign. Yeah. I like how Cole is basically subverting the trope that REL had grown up with about tieflings.
Yes, and that's another thing. Let's go on that topic. Let's continue this conversation. Tieflings.
Are they all
world? There is a racial slur for tieflings. Doubleborn. That's a naughty word. That's a bad word. You have horns on your head. Like, there is that stigma. Now, let's go deeper on that conversation. Is that a good thing, or is that a bad thing? Because I know when I have this conversation, kind of on this point, with you, Vic, we have different takes on how we handle bigotry in our world, or racism in our world. It's very canon that Drow are evil. Drow is an evil society. And the big thing is they're dark-skinned. That is the biggest factor. That you can get into the religious part and all that stuff, but it goes back to the same argument we just had with orcs, with the orc god and the elven god. It's they had a fight, therefore now they're all bad. And it's Drizzt is a good drow, but he's one out of an entire plethora of houses and societies and cities. He is the only good drow in the entire Mesopotamia. No, whatever the largest city of the Underdark in the Forgotten Realms is. So out of millions, he's the only good one. Like, just him? That's it? Only one good dude? Like,
that's
right?
No.
Like, it's,
which is why I always love it when players want to play a drow character, because that's I feel like that definitely opens up a world to explore from it's kind of like you're the kid growing up in the, I don't want to use the analogy, but you're the kid growing up in the super religious household that you just don't agree with anything that's happening whatsoever, and you finally like you reach a point in your life where you gain the agency to go, oh wait, everyone in my family is an asshole, and I need to get away from this because I don't want to be a part of it. Because there's always going to be those groups of people that shine a lot of the negativity on, where you come from. And then there's always going to be the people that are trying to get away from it. That like you see those people and you go, "Oh, I'm not with them."
Yeah,
I'm not one of them. Like
just because my uncle says these things does not mean that I agree with him, although I am these things. Yeah, no, that happens all the time. Yeah, and I think so. Dungeons and Dragons wrote it, and because Dungeons and Dragons wrote it into their canon, or has adopted that world, Forgotten Realms, into their canon. Therefore, they did an oopsie doopsie, right? It's there is this thought of like the original sin for Dungeons and Dragons, because it's the one that I know the most, where it's this game was written by white dudes and therefore it's only for white dudes, and that's a very dumb point, because no, but it does open that conversation of this campaign, like Dickie was saying at the beginning. This campaign, this is what we're adopting. There is this world where there are these racist individuals, or this world where it has been that this god has bred into their people a hatred for the other god, which by definition is racism. I hate you because you have pointed ears and your life expectancy is this much. Like that's I'm no control of that. That's just pure racism. That's not in of itself a bad thing. You can have a storyline where let's continue with this conversation. You were an orc and your entire clan was about that, but you grew up like, well, I've never seen an elf. I don't know what they really do or look like. I'm an adventurer 20 years later, and your party member is an elf guy, and you're like, huh, I was told I don't like you. And then you go on a couple of missions, and the elf dude saves your life. Like, huh, you're not really a bad person after all. Like, that's a beautiful story to explore. Someone getting rid of their bigotry. Someone learning and growing. That's fine. But making a character that is inherently that and does not challenge that, and we don't challenge those things, we don't stop it, is kind of bad on our part. I think it's that person. It's when you're having Thanksgiving, and because this is the easiest one to poke at, your one uncle says that one thing like, oh, what's something that's very real, because this is a fucking common one. I don't have any problem with gay people, just as long as they're not around me. Like that stupid quote. That's I've heard.
As long as they don't move into the neighborhood.
Yeah, right. It's like it's fine. Like I have no issue with black people. It's just like, but when they come, they bring the value of the property down. It's like, are you stupid? That's no. Like, and everyone, I guarantee you, have this thing where like you're at Thanksgiving, a member of your family says that, and it's easier to just not say anything because it's going to create drama than to challenge that. And when you're doing that in a role-playing game and it's amongst your friends and that happens and you don't challenge that, I think can create real problems that extend. Because let's change orc and elf to KKK black person. Then it's not fun anymore. That's not an okay thing to do. And it's not because I've also heard the argument of, oh, it's just the social warriors propaganding and trying to take over the funness of D&D. Nobody thinks like that. Like, no, nobody writes a fucking racist book to make money. But there are some inherent things that might be in the game that, as society increases and as we accept people for who they are, we should see those things and stop it or challenge it. It's that. What are y'all thoughts? It's okay. You don't all have to speak at one time.
Well, I mean, you can go in so many different directions in what you're saying. I mean, some of it is just plain obvious. It's just plain blatant prejudice. It's just plain blatant. And, prejudice is basically you just don't know or don't understand what you're prejudiced about.
Yeah.
It's just easy to be prejudiced and try to find out what they're all about. There was a great movie, I think it was back in the 90s, I'm not sure, called Enemy Mine. Anybody remember it? It was with Dennis Quaid and Louis Gossett Jr. And it was set in the future. And it was the humans in a war with an alien race. And they were just out to kill each other. And then, they went out in their little spaceships, like, dogfighting and stuff like that. Well, Dennis Quaid's character and Louis Gossett Jr. played the alien. They both crashed on this planet. And the only
I do remember this movie
is by working together. And it's fascinating to see how they were first distrusting, and then they had to realize they had to help each other. And then they started asking questions about each other. And then they started asking questions, why are we fighting? They didn't understand what that was all about. So, it was a great movie. And I think that's the biggest problem right now is that people don't know or understand each other. And people are just flat out lazy that they're not even going to try to find out.
Yeah.
I mean, people say, well, what about white privilege? White privilege does exist, but, it's not their fault. They just happen to be born in that situation.
Yeah, exactly.
But they have to realize, and the hardest part for them to learn is they have to realize that, yeah, they had everything go their way, and they still have everything going their way, but they don't have to give anything up. They just have to give all other races a chance to advance. And it's almost like the same thing in D&D. You don't have to hate a certain race in D&D. You just got to give it a chance to flourish.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. I can talk about personal experiences with white privilege, or like personal experiences with officers, where I look a certain way, I speak a certain way, I am a male who identifies as a male, and usually it's pretty cool. As soon as it's your last name is Limon, I need to handcuff you for both of our protections. I've had that happen where I was at a park and everything was okay, and I was talking to a police officer, and as soon as he had to see my ID, now I'm threatening. You are Hispanic. This is not your neighborhood. Why are you here? Like, I mean, like that's a real thing. My skin I was privileged. Like I was not a threat until you knew more about me, and that extra detail was just my ethnicity.
I tell you what, I had a double bad situation when I went to school in Massachusetts, because the one, they didn't like me because I was from the South, and two, they didn't like me because I was half Puerto Rican. So I wouldn't win in anything.
Yeah. It's dumb, and the fact that for one of the here's a sticky note I'm trying to read. One of the videos was this guy who was speaking on this subject when I was trying to like do basic research on it, who was saying there is overrepresentation in Dungeons and Dragons. There's too much of it, and that is a bad thing. Cultural, I'm not gonna. I misspelled it. I don't know what it is. But apparently there is a political warfare to overrepresent. That the elite want to the social justice elite want to use.
Finally, I'm a lead at something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Said finally, I'm a lead at something.
Finally, right? Yeah. That they're that's making a halfling have Indian clothing, and then another halfling have I don't know, South Middle Eastern clothing. That's, you're trying too hard. Is it though? Because when I sorry.
No, I was saying like maybe it's just that we want to use things that are personal to us, things that are familiar to us, to help enhance our own stories.
Yeah,
like
I agree.
It's fun to add flares of cultures that we know and cultures that are a part of our lives and that are our heritage to add to to D&D races so that it adds like that little personal thing. Like
we know
like I remember reading about there was a teacher that was holding a D&D club in his high school for for students that English was their second language. And there was one girl, she could not speak English very well at all. And she was playing an Elvish character. And he's like, you know what? Elvish is Spanish. So if you're going to be talking to me in Elvish, you better be talking to me in Spanish. So
yeah, we have in canon that Tagalog is Elvish in Sacred
World. It's Elvish for sure.
And because it's really easy for me, a lot of Inferno is Spanish. Because it's
that's how I write it.
Yeah, it's close to Latin, right? So yeah, there we go. Angelic is Latin.
Like halfway there.
Yeah, it's kind of right. No, yeah, it goes back to that with this with everything that's happening for nowadays. How apparently Black Lives Matter is a controversial freaking statement, which is that's a different subject, and I would get pissed. So like a black little girl going to this Toys R Us or that doesn't exist anymore. A store, and when they want to buy a Barbie doll, 95% of them don't look like her. That there's so much evidence to show that causes issues. So when you're playing a role-playing game, and everybody looks pretty much the same, it makes you think that I have to pretend to be somebody else to be part of this game. It's not inadvertently saying that. It's not saying we don't want anybody that is not a white cis male to play Dungeons and Dragons. Like, obviously, that's not what the fuck they're saying. But consequently, it is showing that. And because it's such an important game and the biggest one, unfortunately, my dude, they have a set responsibility to show difference. It doesn't have to be a specific ratio of 1-to-1. Like the book we counted is 25 males, 25 females. All right, let's divide how many ethnicities are in the U.S. and then in this other country and this other country, this other region. We need this exact representation. Like that is not good either.
That, and I would say, like, especially in terms of fantasy and role playing games and just the history of like fantasy genre as general, it's very Eurocentric. It's very Western European, Anglo-Saxon, and that's where a lot of the basis of high fantasy can come from, because you've got J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah.
You've got J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote the entirety of essentially Middle Earth, and that was literally the foundation for Dungeons and Dragons as an adventure. And it's one of those things where it's like people want to see themselves having those adventures. If you're gonna, like, you turn on Lord of the Rings now, which it's absolutely my favorite movie series to watch, but you turn it on and you're just going to see white person after white person after white person after white person. And even in the casting of one of those movies, they were casting locals from in New Zealand to play hobbits in the village. And an indigenous woman who was native to that island went to audition, and they turned her down because brown hobbits don't exist.
Yeah, which it's one of those.
It would have been a distraction. It would have been a distraction, and that's the reason why they didn't take her.
Well, then they should have taken a little more, so that wouldn't be a distraction, and then there'd be a little bit
but I mean,
with hobbits in.
He was trying to stay true to the book, and
I get that. Like, if there is I forget what it's called, but there's a very specific 5th edition game that is medieval based, and you have Anglo-Saxons, you have not the Norse, they're not Norse at that point, but so you'll have your Vikings, you'll have your Christians, you'll have your heathens, you'll have like what was that Netflix special that you recommended me, Dickie?
The Last Kingdom.
The Last Kingdom. And when that is your setting, it makes sense. You are in a very specific point in time in the real world. That makes sense. If you're like Apocalyptico, it was centered around the Mayan culture. So if there's a whole bunch of array of ethnicities on there, it's going to feel off, and I get that. But when it's a role-playing game of this magnitude, and you have worlds and dimensions and extraplanial spells and rifts in time, like, and a black woman with the sword offends you, like, you need a... That's the issue. And going on to Vic's point, when I Googled diversity in RPG, the first 10 videos that I saw of people speaking out about this, we had 3 people of color, 1 woman, and everybody else was a white dude.
Yeah.
Let's go to Google Images. 1 black woman, a second white woman, 2 blue individuals, and everybody else, and 1 undead, and everybody else was light-skinned. Also, everybody else was extremely skinny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're all a very specific body type, and apparently is easier to represent different races if they're monstrosities or if they're different color. But elves have to be the same color as white humans. It's such a sharp contrast. And it's so weird to me.
I would say the farthest I've seen for an elf, besides the ones that I make, me personally, the farthest I've seen in a role-playing setting for elves had been, essentially a very Eurocentric white-looking elf, but with just a slight bit of a tan, just a little bit of a tinge of a tan. Like that was like the basis of what I saw, like just that sun-kissed color. And then Jeremiah showed up, and I was like, yes, hello.
Hello, I'm an elf.
Look at this funky little boy.
And it's one of those things where, like, I understand when someone writes, elves tend to not have hair, like they don't grow facial hair. Okay, that's a cool little thing. Dragonborns have scales. All right, that's a thing. But that shouldn't be the law. Like it just because you see it in the book, that shouldn't be the law. If you want to be a copper-skinned elf with dreadlocks and blue eyes and freckles with a extremely European mustache, dope. I think that's a cool character.
Yeah.
I think also it depends on history. Because like what we're talking about, the Last Kingdom,
yes,
there were no black people because they hadn't reached there yet.
Yeah.
Now, had that been a point in time where the Moors or black people had reached that point, you would see more black people in there.
Yeah.
So it's also historical content.
Yeah,
but I
exactly.
think, so I mean, it's just, but it's imagination. You can imagine anything you want. You can create any situation you want. So, but the problem is that when you get groups of playing, a lot of times, and I'm speaking totally blindly on this, how much of the groups are diversified that other kids are playing. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure there's got some multicultural people playing there at one setting.
Right.
But
yeah, because
on average, how often does that happen?
So, yeah, I guess it just.
And I will say, to counterpoint the own point that I just made earlier, I know a lot of it also, well, at least some of it comes from the fact that people do want to play these characters, but it's in the sense of, I'm afraid to make this character because someone's going to accuse me that I'm playing dress up in something that I do not own. I want to tell this story, but I don't want somebody to accuse me of appropriating something.
Which we can discuss that in a second. Nick, did you have a point?
Yeah, real quick. It's just like sometimes some people, maybe other than white race that's playing, sometimes they may want to be a dragonborn. They may want to be a half-orc. They may want to be an elf, a dwarf, or something like that.
Jesus, I want to be a fat blue tiefling, and you can't stop me.
I welcome it. Thank you. It's like whatever you want. I've always had the rule of you fluff. You can be an 18 strength elf and not look like Arnold Schwarzenegger if you don't want to, or you.
How dare you?
I want to be a green tiefling. All right, sure, that's fine. Okay.
I want to be an Aarakocra that kind of acts like a Dragonborn.
That's fine.
It does not know how to act like an Aarakocra. That's why he crows at 6 a.m. But he saw a chicken do it once.
Did your father crow at 6 a.m. every day on the dot, Birder Eye?
He saw a chicken once, and he said, "Hey, maybe that's how birds are supposed. Aarakocras are supposed to act like."
Is your Aarakocra appropriating bird culture, Jeremiah?
Yes. Like actual bird culture, not Aarakocra culture.
As a child that grew up with a slight disconnect to their actual culture, I respect Birder Eye so goddamn much. Because I feel it so hard. Like, why don't you know about this? This is your culture. Because no one ever fucking taught me.
And like, to go to Dickie's point, like, what does your table look like? Like, it's totally okay if your 5 teenage dudes who are all white are sitting down playing D&D, and all your characters look like your skin tone. That's fine. Nobody is saying that isn't fine, and I think that's a big thing at the moment.
Yeah, it's not illegal.
Yeah.
I think Dungeons and Dragons also tried to become more multicultural too. In the past, they did the Oriental adventures, they did the Arabian adventures.
Yeah.
So they opened it up to other people to play a different race or something like that. So.
And it's because I want to hit that specific topic a little hard, but so I'm not just jumping back and forth. To finish the last statement, I think it's the idea of fighting for diversity that isn't there, because you do watch cartoons and everybody's very light skinned. You do go to the toy store and every single action figure is light skinned. How Superman is an alien, and he looks like an average Joe in the U.S. Let
me give you an example too, because the first time I started playing D&D in school that I really got successfully off the ground, I was at a predominantly African American school, and most of the characters I had were from cards that I tore out of that Dragon magazine, and they were basically white. And except for one that was a Dragonborn, and the kids didn't care. They didn't care if they were white guys or what. They just wanted to play.
Yes, and that's what's the fact that people are asking for it nowadays. And I think forever, but it's more vocal now because we have the internet to cast this vocab. It's vocalization. It's not saying I want diversity. Oh, you're a black person. You just want the book to be all black dudes. It's not. You hate white dudes. That's not the conversation. You feel attacked because it's being vocal that's been happening. That's not the conversation. Just because someone is proud to be in the LGBTQ plus community does not want to end the standard Americanized version of marriage, one man and woman. Like, just because I want representation and sexual orientation does not mean that I want to end your view, your representation. So if you're all 5 white dudes sitting and playing D&D and all your characters look like you do, that's fine. No, that's whatever. Nobody cares. We're not asking you to play anything that you're not comfortable with. And then going on Vic's point, so what if you do want to play a different ethnicity? What if you do want to play a different gender?
Well, that was the beauty of the Villains and Vigilantes latest edition out, the Mighty Protectors.
Yeah.
Is that you do roll for your sex. You do roll for your sexual orientation. You do roll for your sexual attraction. Now, you don't have to. I mean, a person can just say, well, I want to be what I am. Fine, you can do that.
Yeah.
But if you want to be more adventurous and stuff like that, you can do that.
Yeah, because I know that I'm playing a complete different ethnicity and a complete different sexual orientation and sex that I am, and that's cool. That's fine. I've never done well, not that I haven't because I've DM'd a lot, but I've never played that, and that's my entire character, which is like awesome.
I am a blob of dark matter, and I love it.
Well, the whole thing is ironic, though, is that the game is going to consist of, and we're kind of getting a little ahead of ourselves, letting people know, but we're not telling them what it is.
Yeah.
But the game I'm going to be running has 3 women and 1 man, and each one of them are playing the opposite sex, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, which I was gonna actually point to a slightly sensitive topic on that.
What's up?
Which is like, hey Vic, are you okay with talking about this?
Huh?
Are you okay with talking about this before I branch into territory that might?
I mean, you're doing it live anyway. We're gonna talk about stuff.
Sure. Okay. This is very personal and sensitive, and complete within the balance of you saying, Jesus, shut the fuck up.
Hey, Jesus, shut the fuck up.
All right. Well, then I will. That conversation is muted for a different time now.
No, that's fine.
So, Vic.
Hey, what?
As a trans man, how do you feel about someone playing something along those lines? I am a man who identifies as a man, and I was born with a penile. So, like, I'm going to play a girl.
Have fun.
Which that's I think how the conversation should be. Fine, just do it.
Tell me how you feel. It's not like it's not like, you know, you're trying to I don't know. It's not like it's you're doing it for the laugh of, oh my god, I'm a man in a dress. Like, that's not.
You're not being giggly about it.
Yeah, not being giggly. You're playing a character who happens to be female. Congrats, you're playing an actual person.
And different people express things differently, and there's it's which goes to that sensitive thought with like I know Critical Role being as big as they are. I know Matt Mercer was because when they were doing their animation show that they're still producing, etc. He voices a lot of characters, and there was this odd controversy. Well, not odd. It's rightfully so of representation of Matt saying, "I don't know if I can voice a very specific character because I'm not the same race as that individual, even though in the game I voiced them." Which it's going to a specific like kind of topic when getting into character. So you can't really voice. I guess deeper and low and higher for women. Like, you can't really like be offensive when you're voicing something. Being like as an example of doing it insensitively. Sorry, words sometimes are hard.
Yeah, that's the word.
I want to roleplay a gay individual. Okay, cool. So, like, I'm gonna talk like this the entire time, and like, I always want my shoes to be shiny. Like, and if that is your definition, that is the entire premise of your character, you're being kind of a cunt. Mm-hmm. It's like, to be blunt, it's
yeah.
If that's doing it offensively, if I want to roleplay a dark-skinned human, and I like. Have attributes to like African culture, cool. But if I'm doing this and I love watermelon and my favorite food is chicken, then you're being insensitive now. That's the line. And who sets these rules? Well, the person does, of that ethnicity or that culture or that statement. And there's nothing wrong with, like we were saying, to have a halfling wearing Indian attire. There's nothing wrong with you saying Minotaurs tend to have more Native American culture. Like, that's cool. That's showing representation. Representation isn't, it has to be this. Whatever this is. Either we need a trans man who is also Native American and has this specific is in a wheelchair, and like that's when you're patronizing is not the word. That's when you're using tokens.
It's when you're checking off all the boxes on the list, saying, "Yep, got it, done." Yeah. We can move on to the rest of the cast.
It's so annoying when that happens.
And it also depends on the game too, because basically we're talking about Dungeons and Dragons and different races, stuff like that. There is one game where whites, you can use Latin Americans, you can use blacks, you can use Native Americans, and you know where I'm going with this. It's Boot Hill.
Oh yeah,
basically you can be any of those things that you want. Star Frontiers. You have humans, but that's just one race out of 4 or 5.
Like my giant.
You can be an alien race. Exactly.
And there's nothing wrong with you exploring the culture. And I think there's nothing wrong with and this is where like, hey, even I will sound bigoted and like I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, insensitive, and I really hope that I am not these things, but I could sound to someone who like this is where you check on the table. If I am playing not to get too specific, but if I'm going to be playing a different race and different ethnicity, and if I start speaking a certain way, and people are like, whoa, like, that's not what everyone in that ethnicity sounds like, dude. You're like, that's not cool. Then you're like...
Reading the room is a specific skill to have.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, my bad. You step down. And I don't get to set those, like, what do you mean? That's this person in The Simpsons did it. And, like, that's... So, me here at this table, or me here, your audience, is like, that's that... And then that's a different conversation on itself. But it's like, that's... You don't set the guidelines. You don't... Well, it's racist that black people get to use the N-word and I don't. You don't fucking set the rules because you're not black, dude. You just don't.
It's not a word you say. Hey, it's not a good one.
What does it really matter? I mean, you can't say a certain word because they say a certain word. I mean, why do you want to say the word?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Because the only reason that they want to say it is because they can't say it, and that's what makes them mad about it. Because it's a word that's so steeped. It's so steeped in a very heavily racist connotation, and people just want to keep saying it. But
I mean, it comes down. Our society is basically a dog that's trying to chase its tail. We're just going around in circles, doing the same damn thing over and over and over.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's you can totally see that nowadays with everything that's happening with police brutality. This is the exact same conversations we've been having forever, and it's
I don't know if this, itself, but, I don't know if this has anything to do with what we're talking about, but I did see something very interesting last night on TV. You know that show, The United Shades of America?
No, I haven't heard of it.
It's basically a black comedian that he goes around and he checks out, different cultures and different races, stuff like that, and racism and stuff like that. And, it's his first episode, so of course it was all about, the George Floyd movement and stuff like that. But what was really cool was that he opened up with one segment, had this black guy playing the piano, playing the blues, and he was damn good too. But he had these pictures of him with Klansmen.
Ooh.
Now, what he was doing was reaching out and getting these Klansmen to get out of the Klan and be more open-minded in society.
Yeah.
And the stories behind it, the people that were doing it, was fascinating. Was completely fascinating. So, and he was a man, and he says, you know what? I'm just not going to give up on people. So he's willing to look inside the person. And instead of stopping it. Yeah, he could have easily just said, hey, not me, I ain't doing that shit.
Yeah, which it's understand safety reasons for
Oh yeah,
but that's amazing. I know that I've listened to people that their job is in psychology, and the way to get through to someone who's being bigoted, racist, or sexist, any ist that is negative, it's not to confront them and like challenge them head on. Is to
don't react to them.
Yeah,
don't react.
Yes, that's don't give them the troll satisfaction.
Exactly.
But to do like that guy was doing, educate them. Why do you think this way? Let's have a conversation.
Yep.
And if you don't see the light or whatever, okay.
I know one disarming tactic that I've learned is coming from one specific point is if they try to like write something off as like as a joke, like if they say like either like a homophobic joke, transphobic joke, or racist joke, look them in the eye and be like, why? Like ask them to explain how that's funny.
Yeah, why is that humorous?
Why is that funny? I don't understand the joke. Can you explain it to me?
Which like because I know this is a very hot take even with people within our group. You can tell that's gonna be a joke. It's I don't like Adam Sandler's. I hate his movies. The movies that he has written, especially the early ones. The reason, Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore are great. Everything else, the reason why I don't like it is because most of the time, the punchline to a joke is, "You are a different race. You are fat." That's not cool. Like, the punchline to the joke is, "Man in a dress." Ha ha ha. Men don't look like that. It's like, that's okay. Like, we can do other things. Your movie costs like $20 million. You can write better material. The joke is, he's some sort of Hispanic, Middle Eastern, European guy. Like that's the joke is, haha, fat guy fall down. Like, oh, all right. Like, why? No, come on. Like, don't. Just don't. Have something to say. In the a point that I do want to make because it's in my head and I don't want to forget it. On the topic of representation, what does that mean? Does that mean that we're going to, for the easiest one, I think, is movies. We're having a movie. Cool. Everyone in the movie looks white. Just have people audition, and whoever gets the role gets a role. Dave Chappelle, when he was writing a script and he had everything casted out and laid out, he was told by the producers that this one person who was the person that he wrote the thing for, because he wrote it as her, like, I know this person, I just wrote her in my script, was, well, she's too dark-skinned. We need a light-skinned black woman to represent her. Like, why? Because money. And like, that's not representation. That's fucked up. Or saying this whole movie can only have black people in it. That's also not hitting the mark.
Well, you know why, don't you?
The money.
Because there's only one color that counts.
Yeah, green. Yeah, and that's, capitalism is horrible. Money rules the world, and that's dumb. The thing that people are asking for representation is,
unfortunately, dumbest people hold all the money.
Sure, right. The thing that
hoard all the money. They don't hold it; they hoard it.
Yeah,
correct.
Which
they are a dragon, and therefore we need to go slay that dragon and collect the hoard.
There is a great quote, which is, again, could go into a different tandem. That's not today's specific podcast. Is that people that are incredibly, and by the, I think, true word of filthy rich, it would be an immorality to do so, because accumulating, hoarding, the correct word, so much wealth only can exist from taking wealth from people that need it. The rich only get richer because the poor only get poorer. But like, that's a different conversation.
See, well, 'cause the rich figures that, hey, I work for it, I earn it, so I get it, I keep it. But what they don't think about is, if they take all the money and therefore people don't have money, then you have civil unrest. And then you have the French Revolution.
Then the guillotine show up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, they do. Because people also want to eat and just be a living. It's all a concept that people want to live.
Certainly should not be controversial to give a child a free lunch at school instead of taking it away just to save money so that somebody with a 6-figure salary can keep making that 6-figure salary. But that's controversial.
That's so controversial.
Not enough. Not enough. Not controversial enough.
It's but the thing that people want, and this is why people in like the far off opposing team says, "Oh, you doing the check boxes is wrong." Being mad, like, "Oh, you just hate white dudes." Like, that's also not the point. The point is when you cast a role from this is a really amazing one. When you're casting a role that is based in Japan, the story has already written. It's in many formats. The main person is a Japanese woman, and you cast a white woman. Or when you are doing a film for a trans man, and then you hire a non-trans man. Or when you are making a movie about Egypt, but you hire an Australian guy to be your lead. And all those reasons are because green.
That's right.
Yep.
And it's that's not what people want. When you have a Irish voice actor, like an Irish character in a game, you should just get an Irish guy. You should just get an Indian person to do the Indian voice. You should just get like I get the idea that, well, we don't have the money to just localize and find somebody like that.
Careful, laddie.
Right? Yeah, and I get that. And like I make different voices for an assortment of things. I do a bad Russian accent when I have very specific like tough dudes.
Accent, yes, thank you. I can do that.
Right? Yeah, and the thing is, it's when you do that. If somebody says, "I think that's offensive," okay, what are your statements? And if they're like a Russian person saying using that accent is offensive, then I shut up. That my conversation is ended.
I apologize. I will forever cease doing that.
Your question, if anybody tells you that's offensive, then you go explain to me why.
Oh yes. After the conversation is had, like educate me why it is. If there is no agreement, and it's like that is offensive because that just is. You don't get it because you're not part of the culture. Okay.
Right. No.
I don't want to offend you, bro. I don't get to make those decisions. Like if somebody comes up to me and is like, "Yo, you're a spick," I'm like, okay, I really don't care. For me, that's not an offensive thing because I don't care. I'm not being subjugated. You tell that to any one of my family members, they really don't give a shit because they don't.
I'll tell you a story that when I first played basketball down in Puerto Rico, my rookie year, I went down and I played for an expansion team. It was the first time I had that team, and I went down to practice, and I had to adapt to the international rules compared to the rules that I played in the United States. Mm-hmm. And I remember vividly, there's a lot of times that I was at practice and I'd make a mistake or something like that, and somebody in the stands, "Yankee, go home. Yankee, go home." I remember as a kid after my father died, going down to Puerto Rico because my mom was having trouble with it. So me and my brother had to go to 6th grade and 4th grade in Puerto Rico in the Catholic school.
Yeah.
And they gave us, got us to go into the YMCA just so we can have some fun. And I run into a bunch of kids and they say, "Shut up your mouth, American boy." So I've felt the racism. I have felt it because I was different. Mm-hmm. And what I did was I never was insulted by it. I never was felt like I had to fight. I felt like I had to prove something. It upset me some, but not very It was just like water rolled off my back.
Right, and it wasn't like your life was in danger.
And the thing is, in basketball, I was totally confident in my ability. I just went, okay, fool. We'll see how you feel about it later. Later on, what happens after the first year? I'm most valuable player to the team. So, it's just a matter of perspective how you handle this stuff.
Yeah, I agreed, and there is a point that I think should be made with this conversation, because it is sensitive and it also extremely freaking important, is that there is no universal one rule for any of this. There isn't. Everything there is, hindsight 2020. There is, everything is a case by case situational thing. The reason why I don't get upset when someone calls me a racial slur, but I will get extremely upset when someone uses a racial slur towards like a black person, that it's because of the specific time that we're living in. When we're finding high school kids getting lynched, that's not, we need to help the situation.
You know how I handled that situation? When I taught at that African American school, I was there for 10 years. That's the only school I lasted the longest, was 10 years at that school. And I taught middle school. So I had 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and they would drop the N-word left and right, talking to each other. And I would stop them, and I say, excuse me, I'm offended by that term. And they would just look at me like, say what? You're offended by it? And I said, yeah. And they said, how come? I said, because a lot of guys died for that word, because of that word. They really fought hard, and they died to make that word obsolete. And by you bringing it back and talking about it is disrespecting them. Gave them something to think about. So,
I guess which I'm not disagreeing with your point. I'm not trying to challenge your point, but I do think that at the end of the day, not that a middle school kid has grown up and educated himself into the position that they can make a formal conversation about it. But it is up to the individual culture to say what is appropriate or not appropriate for that culture. In my opinion, which again, this is a very perspective conversation from my end, because
where does it begin?
Yeah,
where does it begin?
Yeah, that's also a good point.
Right.
Which, like, I'm not a black person, so the only thing that I get to do in the conversation is listen, ask questions to hopefully carry the conversation forward, and to be one step closer to not having it be offensive to say, hey, black people matter too. Like, because apparently that's a controversial statement. Like, the conversation is for us at the moment because how targeted it is, where somebody is accidentally trespasses in a large forest, and the first thing that this group of white people say is, get the rope, let's lynch him. Like, that's not okay. It's also not okay that, hey, you're Hispanic, put them in the fucking cage. We'll sort it out later. I'm a U.S. citizen. I live here. Ice get him, put him in a cage. Like, when that's happening, and because of the color of your skin, or when you live in a different country and you're gay, therefore let's arrest them. Let's seek out conversion therapy because you identifying as a different gender than what you were born in is a sin by God. Let's torture you until you say you're not. When that shit's happening, this is very real. Everybody that is not that should, whatever that ethnicity, that orientation, whatever it is, they should help people not fucking die because of their skin color or or them not feeling comfortable in their own skin. And it's, we will set those rules depending on the culture itself.
Yeah, all this is caused by stupid people. I mean, bottom line.
Yes.
There's dumb and there's stupid. Dumb, you don't know any better. Stupid, you should know better. And the perfect example of that was 4th of July at Mount Rushmore, okay? A political event, and it was all this, and Native Americans came to protest, and the white people were yelling, "Go back home."
Yeah, I read that. It's like, excuse me, you stole my home.
You first, sir. You first.
There you go. So, I mean, it's just stupidity. I mean, people, and the problem is now is just that we're so divided right now, and people are just being ignorant. I mean, what's our major argument now? Mask or no mask? You know, where's the common sense? So, you know, prejudice, people are going to have feelings about different things.
Yeah.
But it goes back to, like I always say, if you don't know it and you don't understand it, you're going to be prejudiced about it, because that's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
Which I would say, for the sake of, I mean, there's always going to be stupid people in this world. There's also, I would say, I'd like to use the word ignorant, but I don't want to use ignorant in the sense of a negative term, because sometimes people just don't know. People have not
use
been
exposed. Use the word innocent. Use the word innocent.
It's fair, but I mean, people do have negative reactions to be called ignorant. So it's kind of in the sense of taking that word and saying, it's okay, you don't know any better. Here, let me expose you to this so that you can learn something. This can be a teaching moment. This can be this could open up an entirely new realm of thinking for you. Like, take for the age-old example of somebody being extremely homophobic to other people because you don't like seeing another man kissing another man. That makes you really mad, and that you don't want to kind of think about why that is. And then next thing you know, after being exposed to it a few times, after I guess after many therapy sessions and figuring out why that is, you find out, oh, I have a deep-seated hatred towards myself because I am a man that likes men, but I'm told that's wrong, so I have to hate myself. And so I'm going to hate other people that are like that because, things in my life, like my parents telling me that it's wrong, the church telling me that it's wrong, society telling me that it's wrong. So I'm going to be angry at it. And if I see people being flamboyantly gay, I'm going to have hatred towards it because I have hatred towards myself.
You got to understand that people, when they were raised, they were preached to that certain things was evil and wrong and this and that. And then whenever it was portrayed or discussed, it was portrayed as a violent act. It was an act of violence against somebody's will. And the way I explain to people is you have to understand man's laws were made to prevent us from doing things that society does not want to know us doing. So basically all the laws, you think about all of our laws, we can do whatever we want, but if we do something that they don't like, then we're breaking the law. But I explain to them sometimes there's also nature's law. And nature's law is when people are allowed to follow their instincts, follow who they really are, follow the path that they choose, So it's really, who are we to judge people when we're just being instinctively ourselves?
Yeah, and that's tying everything you both just said so beautifully to the point of the conversation of representation. When you see a book that doesn't have someone who represents who you feel, and you're looking at TV and it doesn't represent who you feel, and the authority and the power tells you that that's bad, you end up hating yourself.
Yeah.
And that's, so have small little things like having a little black girl carrying a wand in the D&D book might be the exact thing that little girl needs to not hate herself.
Yeah.
If
it works for her.
Yeah, having a flamboyant dude in the book might make you feel comfortable with that. having like a non-binary person. I'm not sure how you'll really draw a non-binary person. I'm sure other people can. That's easy to do.
As a person, bro.
Yeah, as a person, exactly. That's what we need. We just the collective we. It's just let people audition, let people do their thing that they want to do, represent the way that they want to represent it. If you can, and it's important to cast a person of a certain ethnicity, cast that person of a certain ethnicity. Have that voice actor of that ethnicity represent that. It's not. I don't think it's appropriating it unless they say so. Wearing a Native American garb as a costume is offensive as soon as the Native American people tell you that it's offensive. It's representation is very important. It's not a thing that should be feared, in my opinion, by, again, my opinion could be completely super specific and ignorant to people that are more quote unquote woke than me. It's not me wanting to play a different race or ethnicity, or me wanting to have my dwarf with the kilt to represent something that I think looks cool and represent that part of the culture, even though I'm not that. That's not appropriating something. Me dressing up as somebody as a ornament. That's where like a line is being drawn. Me making fun of it for value is where a line's being drawn. Me using a checkbook and checkboxes and marking them off to have a token, that's where the line's being drawn. And the line's going to shift back and forth. Society dictates that. A couple of years ago, using the R word, it was horrible. I mean, it was very okay. Everybody was using it left and right. Shows and TV were saying it left and right. Now it's not. And it's like... And I have friends that say the R word, and my sister has Down syndrome. And when they say it, they're not saying it negative person with Down syndrome. It's just a thing that is a reflex from many years ago, hearing comedians doing it or watching a TV show. And but we're saying now that's insensitive, and we're saying it now. Well, therefore, we need to adapt to that.
And we're living in a different time than the past. I mean, I was thinking, all the things that have been, going on, statues and Confederacy and all that stuff that, we are still evolving as a society, as people. And we're not evolving physically or mentally or anything like that, but we are evolving socially. That we are getting to a point where we're recognizing that, one race is really getting a short end of the stick. More than one race is getting a short end of the stick. Another race is getting more than their share of privilege and stuff like that. And, it's just that we're now at a point in time where, race and racism is out in the front. It is out in the open for people. And some people don't want to see it. They don't want to look at it. They don't want to deal with it. And that bothers them. And they just assume, well, let's just go back to the way it used to, where, nobody was upset about it and stuff like that. Well, people were upset about it, just things weren't being said. And now what wasn't being said is out in the open now. So forget about going back to normal. There is no normal anymore. Mm-hmm. We're headed towards a new normal. And but on a positive side, even though I work retail and stuff like that, I am noticing that people are really going out of the way to be kinder from different races that I interact with. Mm-hmm. I treat people the same. I mean, it depends on your characters. It's pretty much how I'm going to judge you.
Yeah.
If I don't know who you are, then I'll just give you the benefit of the doubt. You're okay until you prove you're an asshole to me. And I think that people that I meet, I'll go to them. I'll be gracious. Can I help you? Anything like that? And they're very gracious right back to me. And we'll have strike up conversations. And because people don't want trouble.
Yeah.
People don't want to deal with hassle. They don't want negativity because, especially black people, they don't want any type of hassle or trouble because you bring in the police and they're scared shitless.
Yeah, for very obvious reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that guy in Atlanta that got shot. That was killed. Well, how did they shoot him? They shot him in the back because he was running like hell. Why was he running if he wasn't guilty? He was running because he was scared of the police.
Yeah, because it's so instinct. Like, there's so much evidence right now. This is again going to maybe a different tangent than we expected, but it's when it's reactionary for a woman to say there is an African American man threatening me because they know the response that's going to happen because we know the culture we live in, versus a white man has a machete chasing a police officer and they know they're gonna be okay because that is a culture that we know it. And the thing is, we know when your life is on the line, you're not thinking of a social movement, or you're not thinking of how can I manipulate the situation to profit off of whatever ideology I believe in. When someone has a gun pulled on you, you act in survival. So when a black man's survival is to flee because we know what's going to happen, he needs to get away because his life is in danger, versus a white man's instinct is to stand my ground and defend myself because they know, and it's culturally bred into us at this specific time period in this specific place in the U.S. that they're going to most likely be fine.
Especially in the news. If somebody white did something horrible, he has mental problems. If somebody black did something horrible or Hispanic, they have a troubled past.
Yeah, it's and it's when we point these things out, because there is a narrative that intentionally or unintentionally has been said, and you feel offended. Like, well, I read a quote today that made me think about this. How was it? Something which I'm gonna butcher it, but it's something on the lines with like, I think white privilege was given out because I earned everything that I have. Yeah. I'm sure you did. I'm sure you worked extremely hard for your house. I'm sure that you're not a bad person. I'm sure that you give people the benefit of the doubt. You treat everyone equally until they either disrespect you or whatever. Like, I'm sure that you are a good person and you've done your absolute best. And everything that you have, you deserve because you worked hard for it.
And it's also that you've never, been a racist towards anybody, that you never really, put anybody down or said mean things. But then again, when it never gives somebody an opportunity, or you never want to be near them because you don't trust them.
Yeah, which is, that's also too. But it goes back and begs the question that, well, they're not educated in the point that they understand what the true reason why people say white privilege, because it shows it everywhere. You don't get hassled by a police officer. You don't feel threatened by one because of the color of your skin, because you are white. When you go get a bank loan and your name sounds more European, you're more likely to get accepted. Same thing with job opportunities. Same thing with housing. Like, this isn't a political fucking conspiracy theory. There is so much goddamn evidence that has shown this. That there's so many social experiments that have happened to show these exact things, that the exact same applicant, the exact same wording on a job applicant versus a Cindy or a Shaniqua, they're going to hire Cindy because that name is more quote unquote trusting. That's a narrative we've been bred with. It's
like I said, they stop at the name. They don't try to find out what the content of the person is.
Yeah, and like I was watching this podcast of this man who's like, I never understood like what's happening with the Black Lives Matter movement, until one of my friends who is black told me that, well, have you ever had to sit down and talk to your son about the real possibility that how extra careful you have to be and extremely respectful you have to be again around a police officer?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was never told that. I've never had to fear that because how light I am. Like, that's never a thing that's talked to. And then so many people, I've talked to some of my black friends, that's a thing that their parents have to sit down and talk to their kids about because that's a real threat. Like, that's never a conversation. I would never have to think of that. Like, yes, be respectful is a conversation you should have with your, but not be so respectful to not give an officer an ounce of reason to be in any way sort of aggressive towards you.
And where are these officers coming from? Military background, which they're taught to kill.
There is a very specific code of I forgot what it was called, but there's a training that a lot of officers get that is pretty much, you are hunting down killers, you need to think like a killer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the whole conversation of defunding the police and all this stuff, where like, then don't send a person whose job is to defend themselves and to hunt down killers to go do a traffic stop, or a homeless person, or like someone who's having a mental breakdown because they didn't have their medication. Like, don't send someone whose first instinct is pull out a gun. Maybe send someone who's trained into that field to handle that situation because they
trained
exist. Yeah,
half of them don't know what to do in that situation. That's why they panic and start pulling the gun out and start shooting.
Yeah, that's why social work, again, going from the conversation of representation in games, but that's an important conversation to be had nonetheless, and it should be given its proper day and time. I think we have not nearly exhausted the conversation enough. Mm-hmm.
If you're an elf in the kingdom and the king's men come to talk to you, you better act right because you're an elf.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like, it's which
elf matters live too.
yeah, exactly.
Elf matter lives
I mean,
matter.
there's literally a video game RPG I play where the elves are separated between the ones that live out in the woods and then the city elves, and the city elves are like oppressed as shit. So that's a legit scenario that could happen.
Which is a thing for these conversations about representation, about racism and bigotry. It's all people are asking is they want to be representative. That in itself does not mean, and should not be afraid to, like Vic's games or my games. In my games, we have a racial slur for tieflings. They're Devilborn. Like, there is a specific kingdom right now, and we had this discussion in the last campaign for Holy Thunder, that it's, coincidentally, it is Elven too, that Keonan, that the kingdom is right now in a kind of racial segregation where it was all elves. Nobody can live there unless you're elven, and they're super strict about anyone that's not elven coming in. You have to have proper cause, reasoning, like, etc. There is a gnome village that lives nearby in the forest, but not in the kingdom. And the elves, the majority, the aristocrat and the elder ones, want to just get them out. Let's build that wall. Fucking get them out of here. And the new queen has accepted half-elves into the kingdom. And there is conflict about, is that okay? That is a very real conversation that could be had. That is a very real thing that happens nowadays. Having that conflict in your story is not a bad thing. What is a bad thing is when that happens and you're like, all right, whatever. Yeah, build that wall. Whatever. Like, it should be a responsibility to have that in there. Or complete opposite direction. Don't. Just don't have that topic. Because it's your table and you don't want to. And that's totally okay. Like, I have a very, very hard line. And it's very selfish of me. But a very hard line. We will not discuss the subject of rape in my games. Hard no. Just absolutely hard no.
Also hard no.
It's just, well, I want to represent the person that went through that and struggled and survived, and like I want to tell, like, no, we're just not doing it. And that's my role as a dungeon master. And if your dungeon master puts these things in, like that specific situation, it could be something even less. It could be spiders. If you don't feel comfortable with spiders in your game because you have arachnophobia, then the DM should respect that and not put it in there. Like that's if you want that conversation, that specific topic, even if you have the best of intentions, you're doing it correctly. You are a person that went through that, and this is what you want to do to express that. Cool, not in my game. I'm sorry, not that's a line that I don't want to do. One, just because it's horrible. Every single woman that I've ever loved in my life, except for 2, have experienced that. And it's fucked up. In addition to that, the very selfish thing that, for me, we just hard no on that subject, is I don't want to have to roleplay that individual. I don't want to have to roleplay that, because you're writing that as a very important thing, and that should just have its time and day, because it's super serious, and it's a topic that should not be brushed aside. So the villain needs to be presented eventually, and I don't want to have to fucking voice that. So you can, that's a very specific me example, for like my games and my table. You can have a game and never discuss these things. There is no racism. The drow live wherever they want. Doesn't matter. Tieflings are accepted everywhere. There's no prejudice against tieflings. We have evolved, and we understand that people should not be based on their color of their skin, their ethnicity, their sexual orientation, like their sex, their physical limitations. None of that matters. You're a person. Cool. Awesome game. Because sometimes you come to the table and you don't want to think about those things. There is such a thing as fatigue of this. When you get on Facebook and everything you see is just this person getting shot, this person getting abused, this person getting lynched. Like, you're like, oh my God, that's horrible. And it is. It sucks. And you just like, I just want something dumb. Just put on The Simpsons. Political satire. I mean, like, that's important. I understand. But, like, alright, I'm drained. Let's watch this movie. Oh, shit. They're having a subject that's really hard. And, like, alright, I understand. It needs a place and time. But, like, oh my God, I just want... I'm going to go play Zelda. There's no talk about racism in that game. Like, I get it. It's draining. It is. And sometimes you need a recharge. And if their D&D game is your recharge, cool. That subject is pointed out. And I don't think that this is like a conversation that is session shield. We're going to talk about this. What is exactly your political beliefs? Like, no, we're not going to fucking do that. It's a natural grown thing. That just, you know, you read the audience, like Vic was saying, you read the table, and like, hopefully you guys are all friends and you know what your limitations are. The idea of consent or not, like, oh, I don't like scary shit, bro. Like, all right, cool. I'm not gonna run a horror game, or like,
yeah, bro, I don't like scary shit.
Yeah, but what was that word we used? We're gonna exploit you.
Yeah, I'm apparently the kind of person that's easy to exploit.
Yeah, you hit a lot of checkboxes.
I hit all the checkboxes apparently.
But on a for real note, dude, if you don't want to fucking play like Siren Head, you don't have to play Siren Head. We can play something else. And it is funny when you're screaming in fear. But if you're not okay with that, then we're not gonna do it.
That's why Lynn wants to take me to all the haunted places.
I think it's funny because I like scary things. I get excited for some reason because I thought Hellraiser was cool, and I'm fucked up in the head.
I've never watched Hellraiser.
It's not that bad. It's really not. The concept is kind of cool.
I like getting scared. I like to be scared.
Yeah, Jeremiah is like you played those games, bro.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
Yeah. So, avoiding the subject because there is no right or wrong answer. There really isn't. It is the time, the table, the culture. 100 factors fall into place, and it's there is never going to be one rule. The more educated, the more woke, the more injustices are happening, the subject and the conversation will shift and change, and that's okay. And if you legitimately do not mean negativity from what you're doing, then okay, then that's good. If you stepped on somebody's toes or hurt somebody's feelings, discuss it, talk about it, grow, and see where that line is. If your point is to start crossing that line, you're being kind of a cunt. If you're trying to move forward in a society that hopefully one day you look at a bus and it's just people. It's not categories. It's not identical. It's just a plethora of individuals from different ethnicities, cultures, orientations, like everything. Like it's binary and non-binary. It's just whatever. That would be hella cool. And because I feel strongly about it, because I was raised by a strong mom with an abusive father, and I would hang out with drag queens at an early young age because those were my mother's friends, and because I am light-skinned and I've seen the different treatment of just somebody knowing, oh, you're Mexican, because I never fell into Christianity or Catholicism, and I listen to heavy metal music, because I play this horrible satanic game of Dungeons and Dragons. Like, I've seen the negativity that comes from prejudice and not allowing somebody to be themselves. That's why I feel so strongly about these things, about representation. And that's why it's important to me, and some of these subjects will be explored in the game. And that's cool. That's the table that I run. And if someone feels uncomfortable with a specific subject, we'll discuss it. And if you don't want to, because you just want a free game to just kill the dragon, because that's what you want to do. But why are you going to kill a dragon? What about dragons? Don't their lives matter too? Like, we can go into a gigantic rabbit hole. The point is simple. There's different people out in the world. Let them be in the game. That's the entire message. That's the entire conversation. What up, guys? It got real quiet in here.
Well, I mean,
I thought we were done.
This is the point where he just says we're done. We're at the 2-hour mark.
I was like, I'm gonna sit. I'm just gonna sit.
it's basically a conversation that we can either let the train get out of control, start getting it political and stuff like that, or basically we already made our point that basically that, you know, racism doesn't work. It can happen in the game. It can be used in the game constructively, but as long as it's not overdone, it should be okay. So, I mean, it's, you know, it's a personal preference. And some people's personal problems are, you know, they get in the way of life. So what can you say?
Yeah, just representation is good. You feel comfortable among your group as much as you can. And don't you shouldn't be offended if someone of a different blank is in a book, because that might be the inspiration they need.
And I think the once diversity starts getting into more groups, D&D groups and stuff like that, that we're going to see a slow change to that. But as long as we're going to have groups that are pretty much singular in race and singular in the same type of thinking, then it's not going to move in the right direction. So it's a mixed bags.
Yeah, I think we're really lucky, and I love our table because we have different ethnicities, different
temperaments, talents, and convictions.
Yeah, we have yes, we do. We have people identify the gambit is identified. We have it's I mean, what more can be said that we've already haven't said in 20 different ways? But yeah, so this is the part where I opened the floor for you guys. If you have any last minute thing that you guys would like to say. And if not, I think Dickie said it so elegantly. I tried to stay on topic as much as I could, and when I got mad, I branched off. And my apologies.
And it was a topic that was hard to stay on it, because it's like a Medusa. It's got so many snakes going in so many different directions that you could take any way you want. So it was a tough topic to bring up, tough topic to talk about. And it was a hard topic to talk about without getting into current situations.
And it's something that needs its due time, and it needs to be said, because exactly the time that we're living in right now. So hopefully, this helps anybody. I don't know. I'm just a dumb dude blabbing on about things, and
we just threw it again. We just threw it against the wall, see if it sticks.
Yeah. If it helps or it inspires, I don't know. Any positivity that comes from this is fantastic. But yeah, I guess that's where we're going to end tonight's conversation. Important conversation. I feel that 2 hours is still too brief for this, but I got videos to edit, and I'm sure people got to wake up at freaking 4 in the morning to go to work. So we're gonna end this conversation here. Please, we have links to different organizations for Black Lives Matter, which is important. We also deeply love the arts, and we have amazing artists amongst us that support the Alistair Project, which is awesome. It releases in 2 weeks from today. We'll have a one shot to help out with that. It's gonna be amazing fun.
To commemorate the launch of the webcomic.
Yeah, which I'm excited and scared at the same time. The DM portion of it, not the comic itself.
You should be very afraid.
I'm very afraid. Please.
Control of things that you have no idea.
Yeah. Like, yeah. Just think smart. Don't get yourself skilled at the end.
Wait, think smart? You're talking about...
Do you not see my new icon?
Yeah, that's why I'm scared. I think Alistair is the brain of the operation, and that's scary.
Yeah.
Alistair definitely has a lot of the authority in the operation, and that's also scary. We'll see how this goes. But yeah, please be kind to one another. Please love each other. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys next time. Adios. Please be safe.
Goodbye.
Bye.